In a courtroom where power wore a robe and spoke with authority, one woman stood alone, not with rage, but with a pen and a plan. What happened that day didn't just change a trial, it shook the very walls of the system. Soft instrumental music rises, slow-motion shots of a packed federal courthouse, journalists, cameras flashing, microphones ready, a storm waiting to break. It was a Tuesday morning in Miami, hot, humid, and heavy with expectation. Inside courtroom 7B, the federal district courthouse was electric. Every seat filled. Reporters leaned forward, phones recording, notepads tight in hand. This wasn't just another corruption case. At the defense table sat Pam Bondi, former Florida Attorney General, sharp mind, sharper instincts, an even sharper list of enemies. Across from her, behind the bench, towered Judge Edward Chen, a judicial legend, feared by lawyers, respected by colleagues, untouchable, or so he believed. With 22 years on the bench, Chen ruled his courtroom like a monarch. At precisely 9 a.m., he entered, black robe trailing like a cape, face carved in stone. "All rise," called the bailiff. The show had begun. Bondi rose, calm and collected, dressed in a navy blue suit, her blonde hair pulled back with surgical precision. "Good morning, Your Honor. I am counsel for the defense." Chen barely looked up. "I expected someone with more experience for a case of this magnitude," he said, his voice edged with sarcasm. Bondi didn't flinch. "I assure the court, Your Honor," she replied smoothly. "I am fully prepared." But they both knew. This wasn't about legal skill, it was about control. For the next 40 minutes, Bondi weathered a storm, objections denied before she could finish, motions ignored, every word cut short, not with law, but with contempt. "Stay relevant, Miss Bondi." "This isn't a campaign rally." Laughter rippled from the prosecution's table. Reporters exchanged uneasy glances, jurors shifted in their seats. Bondi showed no reaction. She simply wrote. Every biased remark, every procedural violation, every abuse of authority, not out of anger, not out of ego, out of strategy. By 11:45 a.m., the judge called for lunch. With a smirk, he taunted, "Miss Bondi, perhaps now would be a good time to consider a plea deal." The room chuckled. Bondi smiled softly. "Thank you, Your Honor. I look forward to continuing this afternoon." As she gathered her notes, a sealed folder, stamped with the official insignia of the Department of Justice, appeared on her table. No one noticed. Not yet. But something was about to shift. If you're loving this real-life legal thriller, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. When Judge Chen returned, he wore the same smirk, flipping through papers like a man already assured of his victory. "Miss Bondi," he said dryly, "I've read your brief. I've seen better written by first-year law students." A few nervous laughs stirred the room. Bondi remained silent. She just nodded and kept writing. Again and again she was cut off. Again and again she documented, because she knew this wasn't about the words, it was about the pattern and patterns. Tell stories. By late afternoon, the energy had shifted. Jurors leaned forward, reporters stopped typing. Even the prosecution fidgeted. Bondi calmly rose. "Your Honor," she began, "before we proceed, I'd like to bring forth some procedural concerns." Chen sighed. "Unless it's urgent." "It is," she interrupted, for the first time all day. From her bag, she pulled out a thick manila envelope, sealed, signed, and marked by the FBI. She placed it on the evidence cart. "I'm submitting surveillance data from an ongoing federal investigation." Gasps rippled through the gallery. From the back row, a tall man in a dark suit stood, badge visible, FBI Special Agent Marcus Rivera. Bondi turned, voice steady. "Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to call our first witness." Silence. Total. Absolute. Judge Chen blinked. "Witness?" "Yes, Your Honor," Bondi confirmed. "Special Agent Rivera is here to testify regarding communications between yourself and the corporate beneficiary in this case." The room froze. Even the prosecution sat in stunned disbelief. Special Agent Rivera took the stand. Not a single journalist typed, not a juror moved. Bondi stepped forward. Agent Rivera, can you confirm the findings of FBI Case File 23 JC789 concerning Judge Edward Chen? Rivera nodded. For nearly a year, the FBI has been investigating illicit financial activities involving several high-ranking judicial figures. He took a breath. We discovered multiple wire transfers totaling over $2.3 million to an offshore account linked to Judge Chen. These transfers occurred within 48 hours of favorable rulings benefiting Freem Industries. Bondi pointed to the screen. And the CEO of Freem Industries? Maxwell Harrington, Rivera confirmed. The same individual Judge Chen met with 7 times. Bondi continued. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Exhibit FA, a series of emails exchanged between Judge Chen and Mr. Harrington, obtained under federal warrant. The screen flickered to life. Subject lines glowed. Timetable for favorable ruling. Let's ensure this sticks. Follow up after hearing. Chen's face drained of color. And further, Bondi pressed, we have 3 audio recordings of Judge Chen discussing trial outcomes before motions were even filed. Rivera nodded again. Voice analysis confirms a 98.9% match. The room sat in stunned, weighted silence. Bondi closed her binder gently. This, she said softly, is not personal, Your Honor. It's documented, confirmed, and submitted under seal. The courtroom doors slammed open. A woman in a sharp charcoal gray suit strode in, Deputy Director Lauren Vasquez of the Department of Justice. Flanked by 2 U.S. Marshals, she moved with precision to the front. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, Judge Edward Chen is hereby detained pending formal charges of judicial bribery, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and racketeering under the RICO Act. Gasps, whispers, cameras flickered like lightning. The marshals moved, the gavel was taken, the cuffs clicked, the mighty fell. As Chen passed the jury box, his eyes locked with Bondi's. No words, no threats. Just a silent reckoning. She hadn't won through shouting. She'd won through patience, through preparation, through the quiet power of the law. Outside, the world watched. Satellite trucks lined the streets. Cameras followed every step. Pam Bondi walked alone. No speech, no spotlight, just a file. And the truth. Inside the courthouse, prosecutors whispered. Court staff froze. Jurors sat, stunned. And in the jury room, one elderly woman paused. She turned to Bondi, smiled softly. You never raised your voice, she whispered, but you made the most powerful man in the room answer to the law. Want more real-life legal drama, courtroom twists, and justice served cold? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Who should we feature next? Share this episode, because the truth deserves to go viral.